Hello, all you wonderful people out there, and welcome back to my media museum. Today, we're going to be looking at my Iron Maiden CDs. And fortunately, I have the Up the Irons, the first 10 years box set of all the CD singles that were re-released sometime in the 90s, probably 1990, 91, somewhere around there. But anyways, Iron Maiden was founded in 1975, and their first release was self-released, was the Soundhouse tapes, which I do not have a copy of. I'm not sure if it was ever actually released in its entirety on CD, but a couple of the tracks were released on the Best of the Beast album. And even though this was not their first release per se, this was their first album. It came out in 1980 with Paul Di'Anno on vocals. Just love this album, but it was not actually the first Maiden album that I personally heard. The first Maiden album that I personally heard was Killers, which was their second release. But their very first release was a CD. It was a single, probably not a CD single at that time, and we'll get to that as soon as we're done looking at this one. But Paul Di'Anno did 3 releases with Iron Maiden, if you count the Made in Japan live EP. They had 2 studio albums and that one live EP. And I personally love Paul Di'Anno. Thought he had a great voice. I'm not entirely sure what the reasons were for him parting ways with Iron Maiden. You can see the insert there is blank. But I like Bruce Dickinson as well. They're both excellent singers. So this was actually their very first release, which would have been a single. But it was doubled up on the Up the Irons box set. The first and second singles were put together on one CD, and that encompassed the first release, then there was the album, and then there was the second singles. So I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, but that's what I'm trying to say, is that the first 2 singles, one came before the first album, one came after. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make. And thankfully, you can see I bought this back on January 16th, 1991. So, yeah, it wasn't cheap. But thankfully, the guy that I bought it from, which was Recycled CDs, he collected up these coupons and sent in and got the box. And so all of the CD singles that I have here have the original coupons in them. You would save these 10 coupons up. You'd buy all 10 releases, save those coupons up, and then send them in. Now, Running Free. Oh, I think I got those backwards, actually. I think Running Free was the first one, not Sanctuary. So, just got the covers mixed up because it was in the CD backwards, and I'm not really sure why. I got it in there backwards, but I had it in there backwards, and this was their second one here. And Running Free was the first. And you'll notice there's a lot of things on Running Free that's really cool too. It's got the Scorpions, Led Zeppelin written on the wall. There's a few neat things to see in that picture if you really look it over good. But this is the inside of the first one, which is probably the back of the single. Probably 45 RPM single originally. Ooh. I've been wanting to do these for a long time. I've been wanting to make a video of these. And Women in Uniform, this was a really cool one that was in between albums. It was not on either the first or the second album. The Women in Uniform song wasn't. But the other single on here is Phantom of the Opera, and that was on the first one. So, and here we've got our rebate coupon for the first 10 years, Up the Irons. Part 2, Women in Uniform, and Twilight Zone. Okay. I said Invasion of the Opera, but I said Phantom of the Opera. But a Women in Uniform, Invasion, and Phantom of the Opera was on the first one, and then Twilight Zone, Rothschild was on the second one. So I think that getting a little confused here. I know I'm showing you the front twice. Once in the case and once out of the case, and then showing you the backs. This one's really cool. I like the Eddie in the mirror there. You can see that they were promoting their album when Women in Uniform came out. And the Phantom of the Opera on here is live. It's not the same version that was on the first album. That's a live version. And they did tend to do that on the singles. They put quite a number of live tracks out on their CD singles. Like the way they called that a double A side. And double A side Twilight Zone and Rothschild. Alright, now we're making it up to the second album, full album that Iron Maiden did, Killers. And this was when I got exposed to them. I had a friend in school that came to class one day and said, "Oh man, have you heard that new Iron Maiden?" No, haven't even heard of Iron Maiden at all. And that's how it all started. Went over to his house after school and listened to it on 8-track. I think it was an 8-track back then. And I became a huge fan right away. A little shiny on the disc there, getting some reflections. Kind of unavoidable. Oh my. Oh yeah, this one. This is empty in the middle. This was the thing. I was looking for my rebate coupon. It wasn't in there. Well, that's because that was the second full album. And here we have the third edition of the Up the Irons, which would have been, of course, the 5th and 6th CD singles that they put out. There's our rebate coupon, number 3. The artwork doesn't change. Every one of it just changes the titles and the numbering. And the backs all stay the same, so I think this will be the last one of the backs that I'll bother putting up here, because they are all identical on every one of these rebate coupons. Nothing changes. This one's just kind of a creepy cover here. I love a lot of Iron Maiden's artwork. Derek Riggs was the guy that did the bulk of all the early stuff. And I really like his work. I think I told you that the first album came out in 1980. But I don't think I told you Killers followed closely in 1981. Oh, that's where we're at this moment. We're up to 1981. And I was definitely still going to school back then. Alright, so just moving this up. That's the only singles that came off of that album. So now we have made it up to 1982, the number of the beast. And this was when Maiden really took off. I don't know about, you know, internationally or locally there in England, but where I grew up, this was the album that did it. This was the album that put them on the map. And this was when Bruce Dickinson left Samson and joined Iron Maiden. And you can see a very young looking Bruce there holding the torch. I'm not going to try and point out all of them. I know that's Steve Harris, that's Bruce Dickinson. I believe that's Adrian Smith, but don't want to insult anybody by pointing them out, getting anything wrong. Adrian Smith actually joined on Killers, so he had been with the band for just a little while before this. Now we're going to probably just do a quick scan over the lyrics, because I'm not real interested in showing off the lyrics. What I'm interested in showing off is the artwork within the booklet. Any pictures of the band, stuff like that, you know. And we are at an end for this video, so be sure to come back for part 2. See you soon.